When Donna Casasanta got a call in early June of 2022, it was a call she never thought she'd get in a million years. It was about her granddaughter, Holly. You see, Donna hadn't seen or heard anything about her granddaughter in over 40 years. In 1980, her son, daughter-in-law, and granddaughter vanished, leaving heartache, questions, and a void in the hearts of their friends and family. Wait until you hear the story of Holly, a baby who went missing after her parents' death more than 40 years ago, who was recently found alive. I'm Brooke, and welcome to Armchair Investigator. In order to tell you today's unbelievable story, I need to take you back to the early 80s. And while this story is about Holly, I need to tell you about her parents and the tragic events that unfolded. In October of 1980, family members would suddenly stop hearing from Tina Clouse and Harold Dean Clouse Jr., Holly's parents. It wasn't necessarily out of the ordinary for Harold Dean Jr., who went by Dean, but his mom called him Jr. He was the free-spirited type. In the mid-1970s, he had joined a cult, and on occasion, he'd disappear for a week at a time. But he always came back home to New Smyrna, a small beach town in central Florida. And for a little while, he put down roots and found work as a carpenter for a construction company building homes in the New Smyrna area. It was at that time he met Tina, and like everything else in Dean's life, their relationship was spontaneous and off the cuff. Pretty quickly, they were tying the knot in a surprise courthouse wedding. It was June of 1979. Shortly after that, they had Holly. In just a few short years, Dean went from wanderer to family man. And it was due to that, the little family of 3 would be moving to Texas. Dean's boss had promised him better pay, which meant a better future for Tina and Holly. So in 1980, borrowing his mother's car, the family headed west and settled in Louisville, a suburb of Dallas. And for a while, Donna received letters from them, but in October, they stopped. A few months later, she gets a call from a woman who identifies herself as Sister Susan. Sister Susan says she's calling from Los Angeles and has Donna's car. According to her, Dean and Tina had joined their religious group and were giving up all of their possessions. Since they wouldn't be needing the car anymore, Sister Susan wants to bring it back to Donna in exchange for money. She also stated that Dean and Tina no longer wanted contact with their families. Donna isn't so sure about this, as she should be. A little bit of skepticism is good. Sister Susan, no offense, but you're a little sus. Donna contacts local authorities and agrees to meet Susan at the Daytona racetrack in Florida. A few days later, 3 women dressed in white robes show up in Donna's car. I'm not joking. Now, allegedly, police take the women into custody, but there are no records of this incident or a police report on file. Investigators say that's not totally uncommon given how old this case is, but it remains to be found. Even though it was indeed Donna's car, a burgundy 1978 AMC Concorde, something didn't sit right with her about the whole thing. And remember, this technically isn't the first time Dean has joined a cult. So call it mother's intuition, but Donna was worried. She starts searching for her son, daughter-in-law, and granddaughter. But weeks turn into months, and months turn into years with no information. Now, just a few months after receiving Tina and Dean's last letter, unbeknownst to Donna, in East Houston, a German Shepherd would be proudly making his way back home with his latest find clenched firmly in his mouth. If you're thinking a stick, yeah, no, not a stick. It was a decomposed human arm. No. Disgusting? Yes. Helpful? Also yes. Good boy? No. Sorry, Fido, but I can never kiss you again. Police began searching the area, even bringing prison inmates in to help look. It was January 6th, 1981. A week later, investigators find the bodies of a young man, beaten to death, and a woman who'd been strangled. Violent endings, to be sure. The woman wore her long brown hair swept back in a ponytail and had a habit of biting her nails. The remains suggested they had been dead for some time. A pair of green gym shorts and a bloody towel were found nearby. It was 22-year-old Dean and 18-year-old Tina Clouse, but they wouldn't be identified until 2021. So Dean and Tina are found, but where is Holly? Back home in Florida, Donna and family wait for news. Any information about missing Dean and his wife and daughter, not knowing anything about the tragic finding in Texas. 5 years go by with no information. The family seek answers from the Social Security Administration and Salvation Army. They registered Dean's, Tina's, and Holly's names on yearly missing persons lists and hope for the best. Tina's brother Leslin said, "We pretty much thought they had joined this religious group and didn't want to have contact with us." 42 years later, the family would get the call of a lifetime. A pair of genealogists had finally found Dean. Identifiers International, a California-based organization that performs genetic genealogy for law enforcement, asks officials for permission to test the remains of the John and Jane Doe discovered in East Houston near Wallaceville Road in 1981. They get the green light, and in 2011, their bodies were exhumed. They upload the genetic information to a genealogy site that allows users to share their data with law enforcement agencies across the country. If you watch my video on Sherry Papini, you'll remember law enforcement matched the DNA found on her underwear using a similar method. Well, it worked for the Clouse family too. They were able to connect Dean's DNA to relatives in Kentucky, who then pointed them to Dean's sister, Debbie Brooks. It had taken them only 10 days to track down the identity of a man who'd been nameless for 4 decades. Jane Doe would soon after be identified as Tina Clouse. The news was both shocking and devastating to family. Police had found Dean and Tina, but they'd never found any of Holly's remains. What happened to her? With the new information, the Texas Attorney General's office takes over the case to find out more about Holly. And what they find will shock you. Little Holly was left at a church in Arizona by 2 women who were barefoot and, get this, wearing white robes. They only identified themselves as members of a nomadic religious group. Investigators believe the group of women traveled around the southwestern United States. They had been spotted around Yuma, Arizona in the early 80s begging for food. What we do know apparently is that the beliefs of their religion included the separation of male and female members, maintaining a vegetarian lifestyle, and not using or wearing leather goods. Hopefully their beliefs also include not killing anybody. Not only did they find out where Holly was taken as a baby, they also find out that at 42 years old, she's alive and well. Holly was adopted and now lives in Oklahoma with her husband of more than 20 years. Has 5 children and 2 grandchildren. On June 7, 2022, investigators visit Holly at work to tell her about who she is. She met her family members on a Zoom call later that same day. And get this, it just so happened to be her late father's 63rd birthday. Donna said that finding Holly was a birthday present from heaven since we found her on Junior's birthday. There are still questions we don't have answers to. Who killed Dean and Tina and why? Who placed Holly up for adoption? Did the couple actually join a cult? Who were the women in white robes? This case is still ongoing, and investigators are looking for suspects. If you have any information about their deaths, contact the Texas Attorney General's Cold Case and Missing Persons Unit at coldcaseunit@oag.texas.gov. It's bittersweet, isn't it? On one hand, you have the brutal unsolved death of a couple, but on the other hand, a family gets reunited with their long-lost granddaughter. What are your thoughts? Do you think that the nomadic religious group had anything to do with Dean and Tina's death? Like I said, this story is still developing, so remember to subscribe if you want to catch up on this one, and in the meantime, feel free to check out my other cases.